Hello, everyone. Welcome. Erev Tov, Boker Tov, Tzoraim Tovim. Good morning or afternoon, wherever you are. Good evening here in Israel. You can see Tel Aviv behind me. And Amir Balaban is with us tonight, the one and only. We'll give it a couple minutes for people to join. Good turnout already, 50 people here, and we're uh, we're going to be talking about urban wildlife. I personally just gave a webinar to a synagogue in Toronto just now and spoke very highly of our urban wildlife initiative. I think it's one of the more important things we do here in this densely packed urban country. Um, Amir will be talking about a lot, but know that he is really the driving force behind the fact that urban nature, urban wildlife is it's a concept here that is spreading among the cities and the municipalities of Israel, and it's I think a very important part of a healthy urban lifestyle. So we'll be hearing more about that soon. uh, Tense days in Israel and in general here. And I don't know if you've seen anything in any English language news, but there was a serious cyber attack on our offices today. Most of our computer services are down. Fortunately, Zoom is external to the Chevra, so that's why we're here. Um, but yeah, we're told really we don't need to come into work tomorrow. Things are not working. None of the systems that through which we order the hotel, field schools, and they make payments, and also the Moked Teva is down. The people are working yad anit by hand to keep up all the tiulim, the nature command center where we have to approve all the trips that go out for kids who are under 18. That's a huge issue, and they've managed to get to some level where they're going to not have to cancel any trips. Unfortunately, no new trips can be scheduled at the moment. Not today and not tomorrow. They know for sure, and hoping the problem will be cleared up soon. So, I already have over 70 people, and what we're 3 minutes into the thing. Well, I think, Amir, we can honor the time of the people who are here, and let me introduce Amir Balaban. He's our Director of Urban Wildlife. He's a senior ecologist here in SPNI and a senior and well-known ecologist in Israel in general. Uh, Bit of a television and radio personality himself, and the guy behind our Urban Wildlife Initiative, the Jerusalem Bird Observatory, and in the recent decade, the Gazelle Valley, which is just such a special place. It's undergoing improvements all the time. I'm sure Amir will talk about a brand new visitor center and a above water and below water observatory there. The flights are coming back. It looks like pieces, okay, pieces stretch, but it looks like we're gonna have a calmer period coming up, and hope you can all get back to Israel. Yeah, please let us know where you're from in the chat. We're always happy to see that. And Amir will take it away, and he'll be back for questions afterwards. So, Rakatur and senior ecologist, man about town, Amir Balaban.
Thanks for having me, Jay. Thanks, David. Robin is with us too. It's great to have friends with us on this webinar. And yeah, well, let's dig in and literally dig in and tell you a little bit about our Urban Wildlife Initiative. We're already celebrating over 20 years of direct action, focusing on cities and urban ecology, not only to help sustain Israel's very unique and delicate nature, but also to give cities a chance to adapt to a very, very challenging era that we're living in. So a lot of the things I'm going to be speaking about will be relevant to whoever's an urbanite. Most of humanity is living in urban settings in cities and metropolises, and so we have to adapt. And when I say adapt, we have to start thinking how we sustain ourselves as a species in an urbanized and world. And as you can see with this amazing NASA depiction of Earth at night, most of the livable areas in the world are covered with cities. So there's a direct and indirect effect on the way we create our new habitats. So one of the big questions, especially in Israel, is how does a very small country, 22,000 square kilometers, with a population close to 10 million, and most of the land owned by the government, how do we make sure that the amazing biodiversity that is so typical to Israel, and you can see on the left map the array of zoogeographical zones from high alpine habitats in Mount Hermon to the southern tropical seas. uh, we have one of the most rich and diverse small land masses in the Middle East. So we have desert and we have Mediterranean and we have steppe and we have one of each, one Sea of Galilee, one Mediterranean Sea, one Red Sea, one Dead Sea. I wouldn't call it one, it's 0.70% of a Dead Sea. So we have a lot at stake. And the question is, how do we prepare for the next 10, 20, 50 years when Israel's population will be over 10 million? We're expecting to reach the 20 million mark in 2035, 40, and it's going to be much more dense. And how can we sustain nature that sustains us in this framework? So my personal voyage started uh, 30 years ago in a small nursery, neglected nursery by the Israeli parliament, by the Knesset, uh, together with my very good friend, Dr. Gideon Perlman. We came as bird bringers, as bird banders, as they're called in the United States. And we trapped birds, we measured them, we released them, and we've created this amazing little haven in one of the most peculiar places. I think this is the only bird observatory in by a parliament in the world. And this is mostly thanks to the fact that Israel is a hub for migration. So in springtime, and talking about a month from now, we're going to be celebrating an amazing stream of migratory birds passing over Israel, using Israel as a refueling station. So every tree counts. And if I can say so, we've just celebrated Tu B'Shvat, and Jade just told me that we managed to raise over $6,000 from our supporters for planting native trees for birds, insects, and local wildlife. Mostly, by the way, wild pistachio, Ela Eretz Israelit, which is the most important tree in Jerusalem. These trees were planted in the JBO, the Jerusalem Bird Observatory, and also in the Gazelle Valley Park. So it's not too late if there are people who don't want to miss out. Contact Jay and his team, and we'll make sure a beautiful wild pistachio will be planted on your name in Jerusalem for the benefit of birds and people. So this is an example of the groups that come to the JPO and encounter our amazing migrants. This is a golden oriole, a very rare breeder in the north, mostly breeds in Europe, that passes in nice numbers through the JBO. And you can see the smiles of the children and how this interaction between the researchers and the birds are so attractive. And this is the bird hide, Israel's first urban bird hide overlooking the Nieman Pond, also one of our supporters, Daniel Niemann, who's coming to visit very soon in March to enjoy our migration. And I'd like to share a little secret with you. Although I grew up in Jerusalem, I had a fetish for ducks. You know, bird watchers are peculiar, and we always are attracted to things that are rare or difficult to see. And Jerusalem, as you might know, is a Mediterranean habitat, 800 meters above sea level, very little wetlands around. And I was really attracted to ducks mainly because of their variety and their unique coloration and adaptation to wetlands and the way they swim and dive, etc. So this is always something that I was lacking, and thankfully my father worked in the book business. So each time he came back from abroad, he would bring me a special book about ducks, so I could enhance my knowledge of the duck world. And later on, as an adult, I also invested a lot of time in sketching wildlife and painting wildlife outdoors. And this is one of our Israeli ducks, the marble duck, an endangered species that lives in the Hula. And they're very fun to photograph and also to paint. And during my 20s, I traveled around the world. And one of the places I remember uh, that inspired me in a very unique way is a site called Arundel. It belongs to the Wetland and Wildfowl Trust. This is an organization that was started by Sir Peter Scott, a bird painter and also a naturalist and a conservationist. And they have a network of wetlands and centers all over England, about 11 centers. And I just, each time I travel to England, I always make sure I visit one of them. The one on the right actually is the London Wetland Center that I really advise anybody that's interested in urban wildlife and ducks and wetlands to visit the site. It's really well planned and very, very impressive. So remember this. This is a part of my autobiography, and this is what, you know, when we developed the JBO, and later on we started working in Gazelle Valley, always in the back of my mind was this inspirational organization and its visitor centers. And this brings us to a small little valley named the Valley of the Fruit, actually. The original name was the Valley of the Fruit. And here you can see one of the first pictures of Shkunat Katamonim, in a Katamonim neighborhood in southwestern Jerusalem. This was taken during the 50s, late 50s, when new immigrants came from North Africa, and there was a great need for new housing. So this neighborhood was erected very quickly. And over the years, Jerusalem started spreading westward. And here you can see the valley, not only the valley, but also the orchards that gave the valley its name. These were apple orchards that were planted in order to make sure that if there is a war again and there will be a siege in Jerusalem, Jerusalem will be self-sufficient, which is crazy. We always prepare for the previous war. This is very typical to us. So most of the valleys in Jerusalem were planted with apple trees and cherries, etc. So this was quite a curious combination of an urban setting with farmland matched together. So for many years, apples were grown in Jerusalem, and for a lot of reasons, mainly because uh, as the country matured, the subsidies for agriculture in Jerusalem started decreasing. This especially happened during the 80s when government changed from Mifleget Avoda, from the Ma'arach, to the Likud, which was more, prone to business and, so these pictures that you see here from the archive of Kibbutz Kiryat Anavim are a snapshot of scenes from Jerusalem that you can only imagine. You know, these are the apples and the kibbutzniks working in Jerusalem. This is the old packing house packing the apples, and you can see the labor of the packing house. The laborers were from the neighborhoods all around, from Katamonim, from Givat Mordechai, and they were actually packing the fruit for distribution in the markets, etc. And as I said, during the 80s, the agriculture started tumbling down around Jerusalem. And not only that, a big highway was developed, and it actually cut off the valley from the western areas, open areas. So there was a situation there where the agriculture died out, but what remained in this urban setting that is being developed very rapidly is a herd of Israeli mountain gazelles. Gazella is the archetype of antelopes, and it is also Israel's symbol, Eretz Tzvi, and for a good reason. The Tzvi is very beautiful. The males are very strong. The females are very quick, and they are they are a very typical part of the Israeli landscape. You can see them from Mount Hermon down to the desert, and they are very adaptable to a certain extent. So Israel became a haven for this species in the Middle East. They're completely extinct all over the Middle East. There is a small population in southern Turkey, and about 5,000 gazelles remain in Israel, out of which about 30 survived in this valley as the city was being built. And it was an amazing thing to see how these gazelles survive uh, uh, in spite of the city being built. This is the Holy Land project that you can see being erected above Gazelle Valley Park, Pre-Harp Valley. This is a project that sent Olmert, the Mayor Olmert, and later Prime Minister Olmert to jail, which is crazy. So you can see that the whole of the valley is infused with Israeli reality. Here you can see a group of gazelles running into Begin Road before we fenced off the park. So this is quite a crazy thing. Now, as in open spaces in cities, the developers really wanted to build a lot of high-rise buildings there. What they didn't consider two factors: the fact that there is a gazelle population there, and the second one, that the community and communities in Jerusalem at large are very active. So if the community around the valley decides to fight the developers, they will do so in a very severe way. And here you can see some pictures from the big battle against the developers and the municipality. And to the amazement of most people, this battle succeeded. Not only it succeeded, but it created a coalition of the communities and a lot of other stakeholders from social backgrounds, political backgrounds, and also it served as a very important chapter in SPNI's um, understanding of the importance of nature for people. It was clear to everybody that if we protect Gazelle Valley for gazelles, it has no direct effect on the gazelle population in Israel because this is a captive herd. But the fact that people can come and view gazelles on a daily basis, learn about them, understand what gazelles need in order to survive in a developing country is something of great importance. So this is a gateway that SPNI entered, understanding that nature, the importance of nature for people is even, I would say, even the most important thing. So the idea here was to work with communities and later on with planners uh, to create and envision a plan that protects gazelles, enables people to enable people to protect gazelles, and also create a place where people can meet. So what you can see here on the left is basically the master plan that was created by the community. And the people of Jerusalem voted for three things. We want gazelles, we want water, which is crazy because, you know, Jerusalem is perfect. It only lacks a seaside. And the third thing, which is also very typical for Jerusalemites, free entry. We always like to enter for free. It's very typical to Jerusalemite. If you can, that's who we are. And this was the DNA of the park. And after the first term of Mayor Barkat, and into his second term, he understood that if he wants to leave something behind, he has to invest in an infrastructure that you can develop it quickly. Otherwise, he will leave Jerusalem and he will have nothing left behind, which is of substantial and, you know, a big or magnitude. So he decided to go forth with a plan that was put by the Gazelle Valley Planning Committee. By the way, Gazelle Valley was the name that was chosen by the community. It will not be Fruit Valley, Emek Prihar. It will be Gazelle Valley Park. So there's a lot in a name, you know, and when we decide to go into a battle, we usually try to change the original name into something that symbolizes what we want to happen. And here you can see the beginning of the work, which was basically to protect the gazelles from the highway, from feral dogs, from jackals, from predation. We started rehabilitating the gazelle population that was diminishing. We started off with 30 in the beginning of the battle, but in 2008 we were already down to around 5 gazelles. So we started getting more gazelles and new blood into the valley. And you know, with gazelles it's very easy. If you give them peace and quiet, they will multiply. And this is amazing. A female gazelle will give birth to 3 fawns in 2 years. So with the right treatment, they will multiply, and they did. And not only that, the habitats improved immediately. Look at the grazing, look at the chamomile flowers in springtime, amazing. And not only that, we developed a new scheme that enabled us to bring people and gazelles together. This is called the yellow rope, the yellow ribbon. We didn't understand the meaning of a yellow ribbon. What we decided that we should mark an area which is called the Aliba Shmura, the protected core of the park where people are not allowed in, only staff. And most of the park was divided 50-50, 50% for people, 50% for gazelles during the day. But at night, because the park closes down at dusk, the gazelles get the entire 50 acres or 200 dunams, okay, which is 220 hectares, I think. So the gazelles actually have, during the night, the full use of the park. So they have all the grazing they need and the quiet they need. And during the day, people come in and it's like magic. The gazelles will go into the wild core and you can observe them from close distances as long as you don't pass the yellow line. And at first, people mocked us and said, forget it. There's no chance Israelis will respect this yellow line and a sign. 99.9% of our visitors respect this line, and it's amazing. And it's amazing to see how, through very basic tools, we can educate people to respect nature, respect the gazelle territory. And I think it has a lot of potential in creating areas in the city where people learn to live with other creatures at first, and maybe with other kind of people later on. And here you can see some documentation of this. This is at dusk when people leave, and the gazelles come and use the armchairs, which is ridiculous. And during the day, here you can see Ayala. Ayala was one of our one of our national service volunteers that was in charge of the herds, and she's meeting up with a group of Haredi kids that live close by. And look at this amazing situation where the kids are standing along the yellow line, watching the gazelles, learning how to observe wild animals, understanding that deer and gazelles are not exactly the same. Even Israelis mix up between these creatures. And they're watching these two male gazelles fighting over their territory. Or these little girls during summertime coming for a early morning stroll and meeting these two fawns jumping around our trails. And this is amazing. So it doesn't mean that you need to travel 4 hours away from Jerusalem to a nature reserve. You just have to go walk 5 minutes from your front door and meet this beautiful wildlife around. Now, as I said, the gazelles will reproduce, and one of our main projects nowadays that's been also supported by our good friends in the United States, also Daniel Niemann, one of our supporters, is very involved in this. We are trapping all the surplus gazelles from Gazelle Valley Park, and we are transferring them to nature reserves and areas in Israel where gazelle numbers are going down. So here you can see two gazelles, a male and a female, that were released in Gamla Nature Reserve. And this project has been very, very successful. Here you can see one of our gazelles running around Gamla with its red tag, ear tag, so we can follow it and monitor its success. And on the right here, you can see a gazelle that is carrying a GPS transmitter that gives us direct information of where it's located in Ramat Nadiv in Mount Carmel. And this is another really a very a map that we're very proud of is 15 gazelles that were released in Mount Ayasim, west of Jerusalem. And you can see their home range. They're actually distributed along a ridge west of Jerusalem down to Beit Shemesh, males creating their territories, females from Gazelle Valley Park joining local females, and young bachelors from Gazelle Valley Park creating their own bachelor herds in Mount Tayassib, which is a great success, and we're very proud of it. This project is carrying on, and we are looking for support. So if you are interested, also contact with Jay, and maybe we can have your help in releasing gazelles all over Israel, which is a fantastic experience. And here you can see our Jerusalem gazelles carrying their GPS transmitters, walking in the Mount Tayasim Nature Reserve, uh, playing around and becoming completely wild animals. This is another brilliant project from the Haifa University where um, computers are trained to identify gazelles in satellite imagery. And this is something that we're doing right now. And this is also a beautiful project that if it succeed, will help nature conservation. So we're very dedicated into research and working in cooperation with Haifa University, Technion, Tel Aviv University, Hebrew University, and so on. So we can learn more about gazelles and how to protect them in the future. Here you can see a typical a picture from March next month when we're starting the fawning season, and you can see a beautiful female and a cute fawn. Now, you remember that in our program, we also had a programmatic demand for water. And you know that in our region, water is a big deal. First of all, we have a very short rainy period. This year was one of the worst droughts ever. Rain started in February, basically. Jerusalem usually has over 500 millimeters of annual rainfall. This year we were around 200, which is crazy. And this means that nature is under stress. Not only that, you can see that this is old infrastructure, sewage infrastructure that explodes each time there is a rainy spell. And these are pictures from Gazelle Valley Park before we started the development. You can see the fence, but you see that we had to take care of a lot of heavy engineering stuff. And this is where the municipality comes in. At first, the municipality was in opposition, but when the municipality decided to take the plan ahead, it started investing in a lot of things that also gave improved the sanitation of the city. So this is Nahal Rechavia. This is the Rechavia stream overflowing, overflooding, and this is where the big toys came in. So one of our most intensive investments in SPNI during the last 5 years are nature-based solutions. Nature-based solutions basically mean let's harness nature to solve a lot of the problems that we create. Some of them do incorporate the heavy engineering, such as this big digger. And you can see that when we brought in the diggers, the gazelles were like, we don't know this animal. What are you planning? And this is what we were planning, basically, to start investing in the infrastructure, putting the sewage in pipes, and taking taking care of the runoff water by basically catching as much polluted runoff water from the city into the valley. And this we did into a huge lake. This is a 20,000 cubic meter lake that is planned to catch all the polluted water from the Begin Road and the neighborhoods. And this is what it looks like before it was ready. You can see that the dams we created were not built, but we had a kind of an explosion of a big pipe upstream. And one morning we came to the park as we were building the park, and we were amazed at this scene of a lake district in Jerusalem. Okay, so this is amazing to see how with basic engineering you can change and treat water. This is the constructed wetland that we pump the water through in order to take care of the polluted water. And it sounds ridiculous that we were waiting for the polluted water to enter the park. And here you can see the black, sooty water coming in one of the first storms as the park was being operational. And you can see how the water filled the big lake. And suddenly, this is one of the first aerials we took of the pond system. Suddenly, you have a new reality in Jerusalem. Wetlands that were never originally a part of the city are now an integral part of southwestern Jerusalem. Okay, and you can see the magnitude and the size of these. We didn't, we supersize as much as we could. And here you can see a picture before and after. And you can see the old packing house on the left, and on the right you can see the new lake and the dam as they were being filled. And it was just amazing to see this new reality in the city. And of course, we have 2 days of snow once every few years in Jerusalem, and so we have to take a picture in the snow. And it's an amazing sight. And also you can see how the gazelles reacted to this new habitat. And it was really, really, really exciting, not only for the people of Jerusalem, but for our gazelles. This is a beautiful female, and on the left, a young male. And the job was not done. We knew we had to treat the water. And when we say nature-based solutions, bacteria, plant life are the magic makers. And here you can see one of our National Service volunteers working and planting the banks with wetland plants. And here you can see the wetland plants in action. Look how they are actually catching and stabilizing all the pollutants and start sucking them into their roots and starting to use them as a growing medium. And these are the new sights of Jerusalem. And each time I arrive to Gazelle Valley Park and I see these beautiful scenes, it's fantastic to see. And look at the banks, how they're developing very slowly, But with wetlands, you need to give them a kickstart. For example, these are Elanthus trees that were, these are invasive species that were taken out of Gazelle Valley Park, and we laid them as microhabitats for microorganisms and amphibians. So everything was designed meticulously and planted meticulously with very, very, dedicated people. Okay, a lot of volunteers. One of the most amazing things about Gazelle Valley Park is the amount of volunteers we have. We have over 80 active volunteers that work with us on a daily basis. So here you can see this happens in a year. Okay, before and after March 15, March 16, and it goes on and on and on, season after season. This is a 2-year-old reed bed, and it is so rich because the water is so polluted. And here you can see our first garganies migrating over Jerusalem at night, hearing all the frogs, the Levant frogs calling, and they're telling themselves, this is worth a stop. Let's go down. So this migratory duck appears with these beautiful lilies, an amazing little bitter. Okay, another species that is a migratory bird coming in and enjoying the abundance of food. And here you can see the little water snails, and of course, the best territory in the park is a territory that has a lakefront. So this male has over 25 females because he has a lakefront property. Sounds familiar to you? And not only that, Jerusalem gained its first beach, which is an amazing story. You know, Jerusalemites started coming in, buying ice cream, and sitting on the beach. We had complaints from Hasidic Jews that said, "Listen, there are too many bikinis in the park. You got to do something about it." And, we told them, our responsibility ends with the gazelles. People, that's a different story. So here you can see how this developed very nicely. And in 2018, we decided to do something different. The original project was focusing on urban runoff water, meaning that in November, these lakes dry out. What we decided to do is to add recycled sewage water at the end of May and keep the lakes fully filled all year round. And this gave the park an amazing boost because what happens is when you have a constant wetland and not a seasonal wetland, the amount of biodiversity multiplies exponentially. And you can see how suddenly we started getting not only garganies in migration, we started getting waterfowl coming in to winter. These are shovelers. These are Russian ducks that come in their numbers. Over 100 shovelers come to shovel and feed on invertebrates in our water. Birds started coming in towards spring, and they started nesting. This is a coot, not a very common breeder in Israel, but suddenly coots started breeding. And they have the most, I would say, ugliest chicks in the waterfowl world, but they are so attractive to the visitors because suddenly you can see chicks and ducklings like these young mallards. And suddenly this waterscape, this wetland became a living miracle because it started attracting so many breeders and special birds. So it became a very intensive birding site. A lot of bird watchers that come to Jerusalem come to visit Gazelle Valley Park to see these beautiful sights. And suddenly you walk around Jerusalem and suddenly you see ducks flying over Jerusalem. It's crazy. Ducks over Jerusalem. And the swifts started coming from the western wall where they breed and where they breed in the old city to come and drink in our big lake, just to gulp water mid-flight. So this is another attraction during summer. So we asked ourselves, can we create a different bird hide? We have a bird hide in the JBO, but it's a regular hide pretty high up. Can we make a sunken bird hide where you can actually see the birds and activity in the wetland eye level? So we designed, and thanks to JNF and our Australian friends, JNF Australia, we raised money and we started building this hide. And here you can see public using this hide. It has become one of Jerusalem's and Israel's most famous photo hides. And you can see why, because the angle here is crazy. You have the duck eye angle, okay, or the moorhen angle. And these were photographs taken in that bird hide, very close distance to the subjects and a very unique angle. And one of the most curious things was how a lot of these animals feed underwater. So this is a shoveler shoveling after something. And this is a shoveler upending, eating something. So imagine if we could see what they're actually doing. By the way, this picture shows how intensive the management of the wetland is. After over 10 years of actively cleaning the water, the runoff water, look at the size and the amount of vegetation that thrives on this polluted water. So every season, every fall, we come with a tractor and we cut the reed beds and the hay and everything to make more space for next season's water. Okay, so here you can see from an aerial view how the park looks, how the wetland developed, and how unique this patch of land is in Jerusalem in its developing, bonanza. And this is another interesting picture showing how this wetland operates in peak winter, where everything is flooded, but it's flooding in the park and not on the streets, not on the roads. So the roads are safe, the neighborhoods are safe. The water is constricted into the park. The runoff water is treated into the park, and all the surplus comes out clean. The summer of 2019 was extremely special because we started getting ferruginous ducks. Ferruginous ducks are diving ducks, and they are considered an endangered species all over Europe and also in the Middle East. They're also called fudge ducks because they look like fudge. And this is a beautiful male, a white-eyed male, and this is a bored female. You can see the dark eye. And they started coming in nice numbers. We had over 6 couples coming in, and this is a short film showing the wetland in its maturity, and also a beautiful couple of ferruginous ducks. The male down there is, oh, this is courtship dance. And this is a female accompanied by 2 males. So you can see that we've actually created a haven for this rare duck, and we were very, very hopeful for this shot. And it happened. You can see a female with 3 chicks, 3 ducklings made in Jerusalem. And I don't know if it's a coincidence, but Beitar Yerushalayim, which is the Jerusalem soccer team, is also yellow and black. So we had Beitar Yerushalayim ducklings that made headlines. And here you see them feeding with daddy and feeding on midges, catching them midair. Look at them. That's amazing. And this was all taken from the Little Hide by Lake 2. And it was also a challenge to video. So quick view on their activity in the lake. And you can see these are videos from the hide. Night herons, they're one of the main enemies of these ducklings. And here you see the females and the night herons looking for ducklings. There they are. What a sight. Look how protective the female is. That's a moorhen, basically a swamp chicken. And here they are, so cute. Already diving at the age of 2 weeks. And when it's too cold, they like to stand on the lily pads because the water's warmer. When people ask us what makes us happy in the SPNI, this makes us happy. Very, 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 very happy. And also very proud because this means we're doing something right. So more of duck action. But what if we could view a ferruginous duck underwater? Wow, that would be amazing. So here you see these ducklings growing, maturing, training, and here they are just before taking flight and flying away from pond number 2 into the wild. So we understood that we have a very interesting subject to research, and one of our main projects right now during winter time is catching and marking and tagging and following the different species of ducks in the park itself and also in our region. So these are teal that have been caught in the JBO by our team, and just before. אחד, שתיים, שלוש. So this research is also very exciting, and we're hoping to get results. One of the reasons we are investing in ringing the ducks is because they are hunted all over Europe and the East. So there's a good chance we're going to get some information from these banded ducks. So here comes the current episode that we're involved in. We started working with the planning committee of the park to create a visitor center, like you might know from the United States, Western Europe, Australia, a visitor center that enable the community and the people who come to the park to learn and understand about gazelles, and not only gazelles. Our dream was to create an underwater observatory and a laboratory that we can study all the microorganisms that live in our polluted waterways and how they adapt to urban runoff water. Also a beautiful discovery cabinet, etc., and an underwater window and a library. So we started setting off and building. Here on the right, you can see our little hide. And this is the site where we started digging our visitor center into the ground. So we could overlook Lake 2, which is on the right. It's completely dry. And you can see how we nearly got it swamped by the torrential rains we had 2 years ago. And this is the visitor center, very close to its finishing stages. So how does a duck look underwater? Check. So this is the first sneak peek to our underwater observatory as we started filling pond number two. We had a few drops filtering in, but these have been taken care of. And we hope that in the next month or two, the visitor center will be ready and will be open to the public. And when you come to Jerusalem, you're most welcome to pop in and dive under and watch ducks, frogs, swamp turtles, and dragonflies under under the water. So we're really keen for this park to open, and it will be our, I would say, one of our best tools to teach people about nature, nature conservation, and urban wildlife conservation, and making nature a part of the city and its DNA. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed. And if you have questions, Jay.
Yes, Amir, thank you so much. Fascinating. There's a lot of questions, so let's just go through them quickly. The first is, there's a lot of Americans, Canadians, Brits on the Zoom, and they want it and they wonder what is the difference between the gazelle and a deer? The
Hmm.
deer that people are familiar with. And while you're at it, other questions: do the gazelles have enemies? Where do they live, and how long do they live?
Okay, gazelles are antelopes. Deer are deer, and deers shed their antlers. Gazelles don't. There are many more antelope species in the world than deer. Deer are usually larger, but not. There are small deer. In the United States, for example, the white-tailed deer is a very common species, also in Canada, and they're about 5 times larger than an Israeli mountain gazelle. An adult male gazelle will weigh around 30 kilos uh, at the most. So it's relatively a small mammal. Now, both are herbivores, and they feed on grasses and leaves. Deer will feed on bark and much more. So they are more a forest species, and the gazelles are more open habitat and savanna. So they're very different. They're similar, but very different at base. A gazelle will live for close to 10 years in the wild. In captivity, they can live for 15 years or even more. Their main enemies are predators in our region. The cheetah, that is extinct now, was a typical predator, cheetah and leopard. And nowadays it's wolves, feral dogs, jackals, foxes, and fawns are predated also by wild boar. And they are poached and hunted illegally in the Middle East and in Israel and the Palestinian Authority. So there's a lot of effort being done to curb poaching and make sure that none of this business is too prolific. So these are the main dangers, and the biggest danger for the mountain gazelle after the poaching and the predators is development. There are many gazelles that are roadkill casualties, and you can see how the Begina Road basically created it cut off a population of 30 gazelles. So if you plan without considering the fact that you need to preserve ecological corridors and such, we will end up with no gazelles. So one of our big challenges in SPNI is not only educating, but also taking part in planning committees. And SPNI is very active in policy making and planning. So when you support us, you support not only the very attractive and fun to watch activities such as education and working with wild animals, but a lot of gray work in committees and planning boards, and also sometimes fighting very tough battles against developers.
Cool. Yes, habitat loss and habitat fragmentation are really the biggest problems for the gazelles. And we work on that every day in those planning committees all over. Um, Besides Yossi Leshem's barn owl project with Jordan, are there any other eco-cooperative efforts with our neighbors around the borders, Amir?
Oh yeah, definitely. We are involved in lots of projects that are, I would say, multinational projects. For example, one of the flyway, no, ג'יי, תעזור לי פה עם
Bird migration fly route? What?
the flyway activities we have in Eilat every year, which is across border.
Champions of the Flyway, yes.
Champions of the flyways. Sorry, sorry, guys. It's Sunday evening, so for me, it's a tough call. Champions of the Flyway is an amazing example of a multinational project working with local partners from the Palestinian Authority, from Jordan, from other countries in the region, from Eastern Europe, Southern Europe, Greece, Cyprus, and African countries where we cooperate in protecting bird species. Every Champions of the Flyway has a specific species we focus in or habitat, and the money that is raised usually goes abroad to projects all over the region to enhance conservation projects. So this is another example, and we have lots of guests and team that come to work for workshops in Israel to work with us. Last year and a half was very tough, but it's coming back. It's coming back because people who deal with conservation understand that we have to keep on working no matter what.
Okay, Amir, some rapid fired answers to respect people's time here. The overpopulations of deer can be very destructive to native plants. What about gazelles?
Not a problem. Gazelle will eat around a kilo a day. It's negligible. In previous years, when there were large numbers in specific areas, there was damage to agriculture mainly, but
Hmm.
not to natural habitats.
Amir, is there still plastic on the bottom of the ponds, and is it in danger of leaking? I think
No,
no.
yeah, I mean, there is plastic. There is no danger. So the plastic is only in the lower lake. And the rest of the lakes, after the water is purified, the water is allowed to seep in into the aquifer.
Okay. Yeah, the gazelle park is totally fenced. The gazelles cannot leave the park easily, and predators cannot get in. What happens when the population of the gazelles is too big? I mean, I know we're trying to release them, but that's a slow process.
That's my job to tranquilize them, put them in crates, and give them a ride to nature reserves all over Israel. It's a tough job, but someone has to do it.
Um, are the animals damaged at all by the polluted water in the wetlands?
No, it's a common question. First of all, remember that most creatures live a few years, up to, a duck can live up to 10 years. So the effect is limited. It's not as severe as on creatures that survive 60, 70, 80 years, such as, humans. So it's not that big of a problem. Of course, it's not ideal, but the wetlands in Gazelle Valley Park are not the most polluted in Israel. There are much more polluted areas where the ducks are very common. So we actually supply very good habitat for waterfowl.
Um, um, do people ever use that wetland for tashlich? Uh,
Yes, it's an amazing phenomena. It's
okay.
the central site for tashlich in Jerusalem, and you have hundreds of people coming and doing tashlich, and it's the most beautiful site. And yeah, yeah.
Okay, interesting. Wow, a word about the mass murderers we call feral cats or wild cats in Israel. And what are
It's
they,
a
what
very
is their
severe
effect?
problem worldwide. In Israel, just as big as just as a bigger problem as in anywhere. We are dealing with cat lovers in many ways. We have discussions of how to mitigate the effect. It's clear that we cannot solve it completely. We ask people not to feed cats outdoors or close to nature sites such as Gazelle Valley Park. This is sometimes a demand that's hard uh, it's not always accepted by cat feeders, but there is growing understanding that sanitation in cities is very important, also for the benefit of cats.
Thank you. The lake does not yet have a name, I understand, but somebody's asking about that. I don't know, maybe they'd like
It
to
does
name
have a
it.
name. It's Lake Number One, but we would like,
Uh,
if you can think of a better name,
yeah, well, maybe a nice donation would allow that to be named in honor of anyone. Would talk to us
maybe.
about that. All the people that ask questions, please get in touch with us directly for volunteer opportunities. Um, and
Yeah, if you're interested in volunteering in Gazelle Valley Park, a lot of the volunteers are English speakers. Most of our staff, it's quite amazing. Either they're all Anglo-Saxons, either originally from Canada, from the UK, or from the US. Sometimes it's ridiculous. I beg people, start speaking Hebrew. What's happening here?
yeah. I don't know if you're aware of a creation of a bird path in Beit Shemesh, but somebody wanted to let you know about that.
I,
The
I know
volunteers are
about
pretty
it, and it's a beautiful initiative, and Yishar Koach.
cool. Is the sewage system integrated into the park? How does that work exactly?
Yeah, we actually we buy sewage, recycled sewage water during summertime. In wintertime, we receive it for free, which is nice because they have surplus. And yeah, it's secondary level treated sewage water. So it's pretty clean. You can touch it. You can even put it in your mouth, but don't swallow.
In the Hebrew English, a gazelle is a tzvi, tzvaim, emek tzvaim, and a deer. Well, we have, by the way, we have big deer in Israel, the Persian fallow deer, right? Yachmor.
נכון, יחמור פרסי in Hebrew, or deer. It's
And
called
how, yeah,
fallow deer.
is there a word in Hebrew for deer for the white-tailed deer, for example?
Ayal is the Hebrew name, the general name for deer, but the specific Yahmur Parsi, which is the Persian fallow deer, is called Yahmur Parsi. Yahmur
Hmm.
is the biblical name for a deer.
If there's a drought, is there any way to get water in that lake? Could it possibly dry out?
It can dry out, but because in summertime we use recycled water, it's always in surplus. So as long as the pipes are working, and the water is running in the pipes, we can get water in summer. So there's no worry. But this year we had very little rain for natural grazing grounds. So we actually got a big water sprinkler, and we started spraying some parts of the park just in case with water. So we'll have enough grazing water. But thankfully, February started to rain, and I think we're in the safe zone.
Cool. Yes, we do have organized school trips to the park. I believe pretty much every day and during normal times. Also, preschool visits. I see them all the time when I'm there.
Not only that, we also have a very unique. First of all, the park is packed with school kids and kindergartens. It's really heartwarming. But not only that, we also have forest schools and
Right,
kindergartens, which actually are active on a daily basis in the park
right,
doing their activity in nature. They're not
right.
SPNI, they're municipality.
Right. It was Bet Sefer Yar. It's a growing thing in Israel, not, but in Jerusalem, they actually meet in the Gazelle Valley Park. Every day they can be outdoors, they're outdoors their entire lessons, and there's a small indoor space if they need to go indoors. How does one visit from abroad? Itch. I think you can't. I think you have to come to Israel, get to Jerusalem, and let us know, and we will
Is
take you
this
there.
the itch we know from Canada?
Yes, yes, Itch from
It's
Canada.
about time. It's about time you come for a visit in Gazelle Valley Park in JBOH.
Yes, please. Everybody should come. Truly, truly an incredible thing, and I think you guys got the point. Um, okay, I don't know. Are we missing any other are the yeah the na we na are nature guides. We have volunteers and professionals that take the schools kids around on private on guided trips, and I've been there when I've seen, and but often like biology teachers will come with the kids and they'll learn together. Um, I think we got about it. Um, hey, that glass in the it's not one way, right? The ducks can see us too, right?
Oh yes, you have to behave. You can't fool around behind that glass. Some of the ducks are very attentive. Some are very cautious. For example, the ferruginous ducks don't come near yet, but the mallards, the Egyptian goose, and the shovelers will reach the window and actually feed by the window. So yeah, it takes time.
Awesome. Well, we're over time. Thank everybody. Wow, almost everybody is still here. Despite us.
Can I say hello to Yael Chaver? I see she's a regular. Yael, Alan.
Yes, we have a lot of regulars. Wait, did Yael ask a question that I see before that we didn't answer? Um, because people are asking questions in the chats too, but if we didn't answer, if you have a question, please just let us know. If you want to volunteer, you want anything, if we can help you in any way, please just let us know. Can support the returning the gazelles to the wild or planting native trees in this place, and we appreciate any and all support, and especially just support by coming, showing, learning, and passing it on. Um, Looking forward to seeing you all. Thank you very much, Amir, for this very enlightening webinar. David Amichai, back office in his home in Jerusalem, as usual. Thank you, David. Um, if we're not responsive by mails the next day or two, as I mentioned, we've had a cyber attack. Currently, we do have mails, but they've been up and down all day, and they need to really clean out the system. It looks like some Iranian group that broke into the Knesset as well. Why we were targeted, we don't know. It was reported that they thought we were a military organization, and our HR director said, "Well, that's because we have teacher soldiers. We teach. We have young people who learn environmental education and act as teachers in the army. So that's our connection. Um, that's about it. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you in on February 23rd. Is that a week from today? We have a webinar, a joint webinar with the American Friends of Ben Gurion University with Tamar Zandberg, former Minister of Environment and head of the School of Climate Change and Sustainability at Ben Gurion. That'll be a really interesting webinar. Same time, a week from now. And thanks, everybody. Good night, good evening, good morning. Bye bye.